Order à l'ordre. Statements by members. Déclaration de députés.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the eve of the first referendum on May 14, 1980, at the Centre Paul Sauvé, the Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, said, "We are putting ourselves on the line as Quebec MPs because we are telling Quebecers to vote no. And we are saying to you in the other provinces that we shall not accept that this be interpreted as meaning that everything is fine. We are putting our seats on the line." Well, what did we get, Mr. Speaker? A constitution forced down our throats that Quebec has never signed. 37 years later, everything is still not fine. Quebec is still gagged and bound, unable to spread its wings. Ottawa keeps trying to push us down. From empty promise to empty promise, today's Liberal Party hasn't changed. And the 40 invisible MPs aren't defending our interests just like before. I remember, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to rise today to celebrate the 375th birthday of my hometown, Montreal. Montreal is unity and diversity. From Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue to Rivière-des-Prairies, the city of Montreal is home to many people's stories and cultures. Montreal is known around the world as a city that vibrates with life, from Formula One to the Jazz Festival to Just for Laughs. Montreal is also the Habs, 24-time Stanley Cup champions with heroes like Jean Beliveau and Rocket Richard. Whether you're at St. Joseph's Oratory on Mount Royal or in Old Montreal, surrounded by history, art, and fine dining, there is nowhere better than Montreal. As we honor this warm and welcoming city, we invite all Canadians to join us as together we celebrate the 375th anniversary of this magical place.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to stand in the House and recognize May as Hemochromatosis Awareness Month. For those who don't know, hemochromatosis causes the body to absorb too much iron from the food you eat. This excess iron is then stored in your organs, which can lead to life-threatening conditions such as liver disease, heart problems, and diabetes. An estimated 1 in 300 Canadians are affected with this disorder, meaning approximately 80,000 Canadians, 80,000 have type 1 hemochromatosis. The Canadian Hemochromatosis Society is a small but energetic charity that with very limited resources punches well above its weight in raising awareness about this important disorder, but it needs all of our help in raising awareness. I encourage all my colleagues to let their constituents know about hemochromatosis and its warning signs by sharing the link www.toomuchiron.ca on their Facebook page and to attend a reception hosted by the CHS tonight from 4:30 to 6:30. You could make a huge difference in someone's life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, last week, Port Coquitlam celebrated its annual May Day Festival. The festival kicked off at the beginning of the week with maypole dancing, followed by the terrific music by Port Coquitlam's own HoC. The rain stopped finally Saturday morning, just as the Rotary May Day Parade began. I walked alongside many esteemed members of our community. This year's parade marshal was former City Councilor Mike Thompson. May Day would not be complete without a royal party. This year, Ava Dixon of Castle Park Elementary was May Queen, et Danielle Harvey de l'École des Pionniers de Malherville
was ambassador.
Parade, the community enjoyed the day at the Lee Square block party, and the weekend was capped off with a Mother's Day picnic in Lions Park. Thank you to all the volunteers and community groups that work to keep Port Coquitlam vibrant, inclusive, and fun. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt Saanich Sud.
I rise today to mark the 13th Annual International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. This day started in Montreal as an urgent call for an end to the discrimination, hatred, and violence that still face the LGBT community. It has since grown as well to become a day of celebration of sexual and gender diversity. Anti-LGBTQ violence still all too often a reality, both at home and abroad. Recent events like the ongoing campaign of persecution against gay men in Chechnya and the epidemic of murders of transgender women in El Salvador, 17 so far this year, should be cause for action. Unfortunately, this day also marks another anniversary, another year of the Senate failing to pass legislation guaranteeing transgender Canadians the same rights and protections the rest of us already enjoy. Once again, the current Senate hearings on C-16 have had the ugly side effect of providing a public platform for transphobia. The Senate needs to respect the will of the elected House, which first passed this legislation 6 years ago and twice since, and get the job done before they rise for the summer. Otherwise, they risk killing this bill again.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, every hour, one young Canadian between the ages of 15 and 39 is diagnosed with cancer. A lost generation, young adults with cancer have the lowest survival improvement rate, the lowest participation in clinical trials, no national research agenda, and a lack of specific community resources. To address these needs, Jeff Eaton, himself a two-time cancer survivor, founded Young Adult Cancer Canada, or YAC as it is affectionately known, in the year 2000. Their signature event, Shave for the Brave, is happening in communities throughout Canada, and I am honored to support YAC with my second shave at their Brave Brunch event happening in St. John's on May 28th. Each young adult with cancer has a unique story, a story of courage, of dreams deferred, and of perseverance. They need our support. Please rise and join me in thanking Young Adult Cancer Canada for all they do to support cancer survivors.
Honourable member for Richmond Centre.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses are essential to my riding of Richmond Centre. With Vancouver International Airport, the VIVR, as Canada's gateway to the Asia Pacific, I'm proud of the work our entrepreneurs are doing to promote tourism and hospitality while creating jobs in Richmond and throughout the Lower Mainland. By supporting the tourism industry, we're showcasing the best this country has to offer to the many visitors that pass through VIVR. I also look forward to co-hosting a special roundtable with my colleague from Adri to further hear from these groups and work with them to address the challenges they face. Together, we can ensure that tourism, as well as the small business that depend on it, continue to flourish in the years to come. It is my privilege to serve a riding that welcomes so many visitors. Richmond continues to be a significant contributor to the tourism and hospitality industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, there are many talented, smart, and engaged young people, and each of them is an important voice in our community. The Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge Youth Council is founded on the belief that everyone, no matter what their age, deserves to be at the table when decisions are made.
Mr. Speaker, I continue to be impressed by the passion and dedication this team of young adults has demonstrated in every group discussion, including taking action to address an issue of great importance to them, youth mental health. The CYC is organizing a youth mental health town hall for our community. I am proud that the CYC is working hard to address an issue that cannot be ignored. I encourage everyone to attend this youth-led discussion on youth mental health, May 26th at 7 p.m. at the Maple Ridge Senior Society. Please visit my website or call my constituency office to RSVP. Mr. Speaker, we can no longer remain silent on this issue.
The honourable member for St. Catharines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize May as Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month and commend the Cystic Fibrosis Canada for their incredible work they continue to do. Beginning in 1960, this internationally recognized leader in funding and innovation has a storied history, both here in Canada and abroad. In its 67-year history, Cystic Fibrosis Canada has contributed enormously to the understanding, identification, and treatment of this disease. As well, tens of thousands of volunteers have given their time and energy to finding a cure and ending a disease that impacts thousands of Canadian children, young adults, and families. It is with that, Mr. Speaker, as my colleagues and I return home this coming week, that I highlight the 28th of May and the Walk to Make Cystic Fibrosis History. Taking place in communities all across Canada, I invite all Canadians to recognize this important day, this important month, and this important cause for which something can be done and must be done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Peace River Westmount.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, municipal leaders in my riding are raising the alarm on the impacts of the Liberal carbon tax. The mayor of Woodlands County, Jim Rennie, states not only are county taxpayers having to pay the tax on their homes and vehicles, they also must pay it on county graders and municipal service offices. The mayor of Whitecourt, Marianne Chichak, states the unfortunate and troubling reality is that the cost of tax to municipalities throughout Alberta will ultimately be passed on to families and households who are already paying this tax directly as well. Mackenzie County Councillor Josh Knelson says the carbon tax is having a huge negative impact. As people living in the far north, we do not have the luxury of a quick trip to the doctor. It's 800 kilometers away to see a specialist.
Wow.
Even our community halls must pay more for heat and power. Mr. Speaker, I know Liberalnomics 101 is tax, 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 but why should community halls have to pull even more bake sales just to cover the disastrous Liberal carbon tax?
Honourable member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to have a large community of multi-generational veterans in my riding of Thunder Bay, Rainy River. The recent reopening of the Thunder Bay Veterans Affairs Office has had a real positive impact on the veterans in my community. I've heard from several local vets that the staff have been doing a fantastic job assisting them with accessing the services they desperately need, and for this I would like to extend my thanks. Recently, I held a Veterans Roundtable that initiated positive discussion on ways our community and the federal government can help vets transition back into civilian life and better include those who serve from all walks of life. We want to ensure that the people who dedicate their lives to protect Canadians never fall through the cracks and are never forgotten. Our government and my team are committed to working to support those who have served bravely, and I look forward to continuing these positive discussions with my amazing veteran community. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Honourable member for London North Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former academic, I can attest to the importance of organizations that advocate for the advancement of post-secondary education, promote innovative research, and ensure student success. I'm pleased to highlight the Council of Ontario Universities and welcome them to Parliament Hill today. The work of researchers at Ontario's post-secondary institutions allows government, business, and community leaders to make evidence-based decisions. That's why our government is committed to significant investments that improve education in Canada. Ontario universities are economic drivers. The largest in the province contributes $15.7 billion to the economy annually. The university experience helps students gain the knowledge, skills, and confidence required to excel in the most demanding of jobs. Whether it's Western, Algoma, Brock, Guelph, Carleton, Lakehead, Laurentian, McMaster, Nipissing, OCAD, UOIT, Ottawa, Queens, Ryerson, Toronto, Trent, Waterloo, Laurier, Windsor, York, or RMC, Ontario's post-secondary education is extraordinary and should...
The honourable member for Brantford Grant.
Mr. Speaker, please join me in welcoming the Council of Ontario Universities who have come to Parliament Hill today to raise awareness about the value of federally funded research in Canada. Everyone in Canada benefits from a strong post-secondary education system. University researchers offer creative solutions to real-life situations and issues. They produce authoritative analysis, fresh ideas, and indispensable knowledge that could not come from any other source. Today, researchers from universities across Ontario will host their annual Research Matters reception in collaboration with our speaker. The reception will feature research projects in the area of clean technology, advanced manufacturing, infrastructure, and transportation. I would encourage all members to join me following question period in the Speaker's Lounge for the Council of Ontario Universities Research Matters reception.
Honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today is the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, a day in which we take a stand against discrimination faced by the LGBTQ2 community around the world. Mr. Speaker, progress continues, but too many people still live in fear of hatred and violence because of who they love or how they express their gender. Aujourd'hui,
Today, we join all Canadians in condemning homophobia and transphobia. No one should have to face fear, violence, and discrimination in this country. In 2003, Montreal-based Fondation Emergence created the National Day Against Homophobia. Their leadership inspired the movement to create an International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia.
Fondation Emergence, and other organizations serving the LGBTQ community, and I thank each of them for their ongoing work in the promotion of diversity and inclusion. It not matters just what we do today, Mr. Speaker, but every day that makes the difference.
Hear, hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, history often forgets the accomplishments of women. Today, as we celebrate Montreal's 375th, there is one woman in particular that I wish to honour for her role in the foundation of this incredible city, Jeanne Mance. On May 17, 1642, Jeanne Mance and Paul de Chomedy arrived at a bit of land near the Lachine Rapids and built Fort Ville-Marie, which would become Montreal. As she managed the fledgling colony and its supplies, this young nurse also founded and managed a hospital, which was financed by another woman, Madame de Bouillon, where both French and Indigenous peoples were treated. Hôtel Dieu remains today one of Montreal's biggest, most important hospitals. Jeanne Mance kept her colony alive. Today, I wish a very happy 375th to all Montrealers, and I raise my hat to Jeanne Mance, co-founder of the city and an essential part of its history and survival.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, many Canadians, including my son, are alive today because of the generosity of an organ donor. There is nothing that can make you appreciate the selflessness of Canadians more than such a gift of life. About 4,500 Canadians are waiting for the life-saving transplant, but sadly, more than 200 die each year before a match is found. Deaths that could be prevented if there were more registered donors. I encourage everyone to sign up as an organ donor and give a gift of life. This Saturday in Edmonton's Emily Murphy Park, the Canadian Transplant Association will host a transplant trot. Thanks to the dedication of local volunteers, participants will run or walk 3, 5, or 10 kilometers in support of an organ donation. I encourage everyone to donate generously to this important cause and help save some lives. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier. Mr. Speaker, on May 17th in the year 1642, a handful of men and women decided to found a city that keeps surprising us, a city that constantly reinvents itself, a city renowned the world over. On May 17, 1642, these men and women founded Montreal.
Over time, Montreal has become a commercial hub and a gateway to Canada's immense territory.
Today, Montreal remains a welcoming place for people from around the world. It's a city that's open to the world, where everyone can grow, thrive, and succeed. Montreal is a source of pride. It's the festivals, the music, the movies. It's the Old Port, Mont-Royal. Mr. Speaker, it's the Plateau. And Montreal is a city rich in history, but more than that, it's a city of the future, a city where differences are respected, a city with open arms. It's a city, Montreal, it's a city for people who are curious, for those who want to learn, who want to push the limits. I am proud of my city.
Fight Montreal.
Happy birthday, Montreal.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Minister's story when it comes to his stay on Billionaire Island keeps changing. It now turns out that Billionaire Island is not even owned by the Aga Khan. The sad fact is that the Prime Minister would likely have known that he was breaking the ethics rule before he went on the trip. With security arrangements and the fact that PCO had to travel with him everywhere he goes, trips like this don't just happen on the spur of the moment. Will the Prime Minister tell us whether or not the Privy Council warned him in advance that the trip would violate the law?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as has been said, time and time again that the Prime Minister will answer any questions that the Conflict and Ethics Commissioner has. As the member has stated so eloquently, it is important that the Prime Minister travel with the resources he needs so that whether on personal or business travel, he is able to carry out his official duties. We will continue to do the good work we are here to do on behalf of Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader. Order.
Mr. Speaker, that answer is exactly the reason why the Prime Minister's decision to put the Liberal House Leader in charge of choosing the next Ethics Commissioner, the person who's going to be responsible for investigating Liberal corruption, is such a bad idea. This is the same House Leader who stands up day after day to defend the Prime Minister's lack of accountability while he sits beside her. Does the Prime Minister actually believe that the Liberal House Leader is the right person to choose the next Ethics Commissioner?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Forward an open, transparent, merit-based appointment process, which actually allows all Canadians to apply, and I encourage them to apply because all positions are available online. More importantly, Mr. Speaker, we know that the work that the Conflict and Ethics Commissioner does is important work, and we will always work with her or whoever is in that post. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Opposition House.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that the fix is already in with regards to the appointment of the next Ethics Commissioner. Their so-called merit-based process is actually a process to determine the level of support for the Liberal Party. If you donate to the Liberal Party or if you're a former Liberal Cabinet Minister, then you get to go to the top of the list for appointments. That's exactly how the Official Languages Commissioner was chosen. So which Liberal is at the top of the list to be the next Ethics Commissioner? Is it Anne McCallum, or is it Dalton McGuinty, or maybe it's Kathleen Wynne?
The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Diversity is our strength. I'm proud. Official languages are at the heart of our mandate, Mr. Speaker. They're at the heart of who we are. They are a priority for us. After an open process that is based on merit, Ms. Meyer distinguished herself as the qualified candidate for this position. For more than 30 years, Mr. Speaker, Ms. Meyer has fought for Francophones' services. She fought to protect the Montfort Hospital and has worked on getting access to health care services in French. Order. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. In the Francophonie, everyone recognizes that she was the best Liberal available to occupy this position. On another matter, Bill C-44. This bill is an omnibus bill which goes against what the Liberals had promised during their election campaign. It is a bill that includes the creation of the Infrastructure Bank. However, the bill has not yet passed, and yet the government is currently moving forward with a selection process to appoint a president to this bank. Is the Prime Minister aware that not only does this break an election promise, but this is counter to the authority of Parliament?
Mr. Speaker, the Infrastructure Bank is an important part of our ambitious plan to build and rebuild Canadian community infrastructure. We are investing more than $186 billion to support our municipal sector, our provincial and territorial sector to build the infrastructure they need. As far as the appointments are concerned, we will make sure that once the bank is established, the appointments are confirmed after that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent.
Strong, you shall respect the authority of the House. Mais, Monsieur le Président, c'est ça le problème avec
Mr. Speaker, that's the problem with this government. They think that they can do anything, not only for the Infrastructure Bank, but also for Investment Canada. Yesterday, there was a minister who said before a parliamentary committee that they indicated that they were looking to appoint a president for this new government agency that is not yet authorized by a bill that has not yet been passed by Parliament. Yet again, Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister explain to us why he is running counter to the authority of Parliament? The Honourable Minister of International Trade. I would like to thank my honourable colleague for Louis Saint Laurent. This gives me an opportunity to talk about the agency Invest in Canada. This is exactly what we need in order to attract investment to Canada. This is the agency that will attract investment that perhaps will end up in the riding of my colleague for Louis Saint Laurent. Municipalities, provinces welcome this initiative because what we want to do, Mr. Speaker, in 2017 is attract investment to Canada because we know that economic growth leads to good jobs for Canadians throughout the entire country. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Well, so much for Prime Minister's question period. The Liberals refused to allow a parliamentary investigation into the sweetheart deal between the Canada Revenue Agency and KPMG. But that wasn't the end of the sketchy story. A member of the Liberal-appointed panel to look into tax evasion attended an event sponsored by, you guessed it, KPMG. This on top of appointing someone from KPMG as treasurer of the Liberal Party. How does the Revenue Minister explain this mess?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government prioritizes fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax planning. We've invested historic levels, $444 million. This allowed us in the first year to conduct more audits, to hire over 100 auditors, and to recoup $13 million. $1.3 million came from the Voluntary Disclosure Program. This is only the beginning. With the additional funding that we have in the second budget for this year, Mr. Speaker, we're going to go and get even more money next year for Canadians. Order. The Honourable Member. Order. More quietly, please. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, another member of the same panel accused this minister of understanding nothing about the principle of independence, and I think that may be right. When the Minister of Revenue let KPMG get away with their tax avoidance scheme, what did the Liberals do after? They appointed a KPMG executive to the position of Treasurer for the Liberal Party of Canada. What is it going to take for the Liberal government to admit that it is in a blatant situation of conflict of interest? Talk to us about KPMG this time. The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I will repeat what I just said because my colleague across the way understood nothing of it. Our government has prioritized fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. I am working to get results. The results with what we've implemented with new auditors, with more audits, led to getting $13 million additional dollars back for Canadians, which we are going to invest into services for Canadians. That's what we promised, and that's exactly what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't care about their conflict of interest, and that's what we call arrogance. The Prime Minister just chose a Liberal minister as official languages commissioner. Madame Mayer said, I thought that I would be able to contribute as a senator, but the Prime Minister was clear that he didn't want politicians in the upper chamber. Why does the Prime Minister think it is inappropriate to have partisanship in the Senate, but finds it entirely appropriate to have partisanship for the position of Commissioner? The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our official languages are at the heart of who we are. They are a priority for us. There was a long, open, transparent process, a merit-based process, and Ms. Mayer was the most distinguished candidate to occupy this role. For more than 30 years, she's defended the French language. Madame Mayer fought for Montfort Hospital, and she fought to make sure that Franco-Ontarians get services in French in their own province. She's the best candidate for this position. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Cash for access, accepting private gifts, using private aircraft, co-writing legislation with corporations, appointing a member of a firm immediately after blocking an investigation into that firm. The list goes on, Mr. Speaker. But with all these conflicts of interest, it's more important than ever that we have an independent ethics commissioner. The Liberal House leader stands every day to defend her boss's ethical scandals. How can she have any credibility to choose the next person to investigate her boss? Will she recuse herself?
Honourable Government House Leader.
I'm guessing that the member has not heard my previous answer, so I will remind him that just like we committed to Canadians, we have introduced a new open, transparent, merit-based appointment process to ensure that the diversity of our country is reflected, to ensure that the two languages of our country are considered, to ensure that we are making better decisions when it comes to gender parity. The member knows that we have opened this process to have all the positions available that are open, available online. All Canadians can apply, and I have full confidence that the Canadian that is chosen to fill this post will take the responsibilities very seriously. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Grande Prairie Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When he's not designing government programs to help his billionaire friends, he's vacationing and spending tax dollars like he is a billionaire himself. We all know that his taxpayer-funded billionaire island vacation has landed him in hot water with the Ethics Commissioner, but what we've learned is that he's been misleading Canadians about who owns that very island. So here's a simple question for the Prime Minister. Who owns the island that he used tax dollars to vacation on?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what is clear is that the purpose and intentions of the opposition is very different than the purpose and the intentions of this government.
Order. It's a little noisy early in question period. We need some order so we can hear the answers. The Honourable Government House Leader has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this government was elected to represent middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join it. And that's why we lower taxes on middle-class Canadians by raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% of Canadians. That's why we're giving more money to families with children that need it the most. Our approach is to respond to the very real challenges that Canadians are facing. The approach of the previous government was really to make the patronage appointments that we will not do. That's why we have an open, transparent.
Order. The Honourable Member for Grande Prairie Mackenzie.
Well, speaking of the 1%, the Prime Minister's spokesperson now claims that he had no idea that his friend didn't own this billionaire island. But now there's new evidence surfacing that seems to make his claim implausible. We now know that the Prime Minister's officials used taxpayers' dollars to reimburse hospitality expenses for one staff who was staying on the island with the Prime Minister to Lex 3 Limited. Did the Prime Minister believe that his friend had changed his name to Lex 3 Limited? Or did he know all along that he was staying on an island that was owned by a bunch of shell companies?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
To represent the very real challenges that Canadians are facing. Those are the very people that we will continue working hard for. One of the first things we did after taking office was to ask the clerk of the Privy Council office to...
Order. Canadians expect better than the kind of noise I'm hearing today. Let's settle down and listen. I have to hear the answers as well as the questions, or it'll be a shorter question period. Order. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that members are in this place wanting to do important work but don't want to listen to the answer, and that's why the tone of this place, the conversations we have, actually matter. And one of the first things we did when taking office was to ask the clerk of the Privy Council office to develop guidelines surrounding the reimbursement of travel by sitting prime ministers, their families and guests. Prior to taking office, no such guidelines existed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
Honourable Member for Montmagny-Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, first of all, the Prime Minister accepted an invitation from the Aga Khan to take a helicopter to his private island, and since then we've learned that the island in question does not even belong to the Aga Khan. Rather, it belongs to four companies with ties to the world of tax evasion. After such an evident conflict of interest and all the questions that have been raised over the last several months, is the Prime Minister still okay with his choice? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. le Président, comment...
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister has said many times, he will be pleased to answer the questions of the Ethics Commissioner. We are here to work for Canadians, and we will continue to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it gets harder to believe the Prime Minister's story about his trip to Billionaire Island every day. We now know that Billionaire Island is held by a corporate entity with a murky ownership scheme. Not only is the island not owned by his longtime family friend, but the private helicopter wasn't either. Did the Ethics Commissioner ask the Prime Minister who owned the island? And if she did, what story did he give her?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, as has been said time and time again, the Prime Minister will answer any and all questions that the Commissioner of Ethics has, and that is what's important to know. This government is committed to responding to the very real challenges that Canadians are facing. That's why we have lower taxes on middle-class Canadians. That's why we're giving more money to families with children that need it the most. That's why we're making strategic investments in infrastructure, working better with provinces, territories, and municipalities. We know that we can do better, and we will continue to improve the conditions and create the conditions for growth for Canadians and our economy to benefit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
In the warm Caribbean waters, pirates used to throw their secrets overboard, believing they'd sink to the bottom of the sea, never to be found again. Some secrets are now bubbling to the surface. Billionaire Island isn't owned by the Prime Minister's longtime friend, but rather a labyrinth of shell companies that try to hide assets or avoid taxes. Even the ownership of the private helicopter in question appears to be murky. Since it's Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, what other secrets has the Prime Minister thrown overboard about his $200,000 taxpayer-funded vacation?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is working very hard to work against tax avoidance and tax evasion to make sure that the tax system is fair for all Canadians. We have implemented an independent committee. Implemented last year, it is made up of professionals who are highly respected, who volunteered to improve the tax system. It is that committee of volunteer experts that put together a report to help us to work in order to tighten up the rules for our tax system.
Innisfil.
It's a great answer. Meanwhile, questions keep going on unanswered while Canadians grow tired of the scripted talking points parroted by the Liberals. They may think their performance is like finding a hidden treasure, but no one's buying what they're saying, Mr. Speaker, and the lip-syncing act is giving the Liberals as much credibility as Milli Vanilli. It being Wednesday, I'm glad to have the opportunity to ask the Prime Minister, what other buried secrets is the Prime Minister hiding from the Ethics Commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud of our government, which prioritized fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. If the member on the other side needs concrete results, Mr. Speaker, I think that $13 million that we were able to obtain last year, including $1.3 million through the voluntary disclosure program, that's results, Mr. Speaker. And that's better than the previous government that was unable to do anything of what we've accomplished so far.
I'm hearing a lot of noise from some members, including the member for York Simcoe and some around him. Perhaps they could try to restrain themselves, show respect for this institution. Order. The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Well, Mr. Speaker, respect is shown through real answers. Like most banks, the goal of the Liberal Infrastructure Bank is not about helping hardworking Canadians, it's about increasing profits for wealthy investors. Yesterday, the NDP moved a motion to invite some of those large investors to committee because they helped develop the scheme and they stand to profit millions from it. Guess what happened, Mr. Speaker? The Liberals on the committee shut it down, so we're never going to hear from them. My question is simple. Why are the Liberals so scared of hearing how their bank will help their wealth?
The Honourable Minister for Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, for the entire last year, we engaged with a wide range of stakeholders, municipalities, provinces, territories, labor unions, trade councils, IMF, World Bank, private investors, our own pension funds, Mr. Speaker, who invest in other countries. We want to make sure they invest here in our own country to create jobs here for the middle class, to create prosperity here in Canada, to make sure that we build the infrastructure that our communities need. What is wrong with that? NDP might have an issue with that. We don't, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, we all know that with the new Liberal Infrastructure Privatization Bank, people are going to end up paying fees to use roads or bridges, for example. It could not be otherwise. How else could private investors make money unless they implemented tolls and fees everywhere for users? Furthermore, the private sector is going to decide which projects are going to go forward. They're going to pick the projects that are profitable, not those that everybody needs. Is the minister not ashamed to add to the financial burden on families that are already having a hard time making both ends meet?
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian pension funds like Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement Fund, the Caisse de Dépôt, the Alberta Investment Management Corporation. These are credible organizations that invest in countries like Latin America, Australia. We want to make sure that they invest in our own country to create jobs here in our own country so the middle class can grow. And those people who are working hard to be part of the middle class have the opportunity for employment, that our communities who need infrastructure do have the infrastructure to reduce traffic gridlock, to make sure that we'll be...
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's Wednesday, so can the Prime Minister please clear this up? The Finance Minister claims that the Liberals' so-called infrastructure bank will be independent. But if the Minister read his own legislation, he would see clearly that it's exactly the opposite. The Minister of Finance will approve loan guarantees. The Liberal Cabinet will appoint boards of directors and the chairperson. The Liberal Cabinet will have the final approval over the CEO. So, Mr. Speaker, which is it? Is the bank going to be independent, or will the bank continue to be just an arm of the PMO, Cabinet and the Finance Minister to reward their Liberal friends?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, after consultation with the Canadians from wide experiences, backgrounds, we have been able to create a right balance. We will make sure that the bank is independent, arm's-length Crown Corporation that is able to make a decision on its own, but at the same time be accountable to this House, to People's House, to the Parliament, as well as make sure that we are there to protect the public interest, that we are there to ensure that the projects the bank funds are in the public interest, are needed to meet the needs of Canadian communities. That is our goal. That's exactly what we are doing.
The honourable member from Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, here's the Liberal version of Robin Hood. It's the story of the Minister of Finance who invites his billionaire friends to help themselves to the pockets of poor Canadian taxpayers. The recipe: borrow billions paid by the next generations of young Canadians. Take those billions and distribute them to the Liberals' rich friends by promising them risk-free profits. It's the Robin Hood Bank of Infrastructure. When is the Robin Hood Bank going to stop taking from middle-class Canadians to give it to rich Liberals, Mr. Speaker?
Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, the pension funds that I talked about, that's where Canadians are investing in the retirement. That is the money we want to use to build the infrastructure that our Canadian communities need. I really don't understand why the member of the opposition is so much against for organizations like Caisse de Dépôt, very credible organizations, CPPB-IB, the Teachers Fund, the AMCO, credible organizations who invest on behalf of Canadians, creating jobs here in our own country to help us grow our own economy. What is wrong with that, Mr. Speaker? They may have issues with the private investors investing. We don't, because we know.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Businesses accept that risk goes with making a profit. Risk is a real thing. Not for electricity company lobbyists and former Liberal Cabinet Minister Sergio Marchi, though, who told Transport Committee yesterday that the Infrastructure Bank will, and I quote, de-risk his clients' electricity investments through loan guarantees from taxpayers. Magic. The risk disappears. Will taxpayers' money disappear along with it?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, through you, Mr. Speaker, I would like to tell the honourable member that he's absolutely wrong. He's absolutely wrong. The bank will shift risk to the private sector, appropriate to the investment that they make. Every deal will be structured in the public interest. We want to make sure that public interest is protected. That is why we want to attract the right people for the CEO, for the board members, and the board chair. We encourage everyone to apply so we can have the right expertise to make sure that we structure our deals in a way that they are in the public interest, that we help build more infrastructure that our communities need.
Honourable member for Carleton.
But these companies already invest billions of dollars in electricity infrastructure. According to J.P. Morgan, they expect, on average, 20% rates of return. Now, they want taxpayers to take any losses. Their paid Liberal lobbyist, Sergio Marchi, has lobbied the government 40 times on infrastructure. He represents the same crony capitalists that Kathleen Wynne has enriched by forcing Ontarians to pay through the nose for electricity. Why is this Liberal government forcing taxpayers to backstop the profits of Liberal wealthy elites?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we engaging through our partners, one thing that we learned that for last decade, this Conservative government underfunded infrastructure, that we have a huge infrastructure deficit in our Canadian communities. We are making historic investments, $186 billion over next decade. Wow. But despite of that, there still remain infrastructure deficits or will remain infrastructure deficits. Our goal is to mobilize private capital to build the necessary infrastructure, to grow our economy, create jobs, and support our municipalities in helping.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt-Saanich-Sud.
Mr. Speaker, for over 5 years, New Democrats have been urging the federal government to remove the transphobic regulation governing air passenger screening. This regulation has nothing to do with safety, but rather subjects transgender Canadians to public humiliation from facing questions about their gender and obstructs their right to travel. In 2012, the Liberals supported the NDP motion to repeal this regulation, and in question period, the member for Papineau himself asked the Conservative government of the day to ditch the regulation. If he supported removing this discriminatory regulation then, why, as Prime Minister, has he taken absolutely no action?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to tell my colleague that we're looking at this at the very moment, and we'll have more to say in due course.
Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. A year and a half later, Mr. Speaker, when he was a backbencher, the Prime Minister said that it was urgent to repeal the Conservative regulation that prohibited airlines from allowing a passenger to board if they did not appear to be the same gender indicated on their ID. After a year and a half in power, the Prime Minister has still done nothing about this, and yet it's simple. He doesn't even need to legislate. Will the Prime Minister commit today to repealing this discriminatory regulation, which is a direct affront to the trans community? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I just indicated, we are currently examining this situation. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Canadian and a proud Montrealer, this year is particularly important. While we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of Canada, today we are celebrating the 375th anniversary of Montreal. Visitors from other parts of Canada and worldwide will come here to celebrate our culture and artists. Can the Minister of Transport tell us how the Canadian government is supporting these initiatives in partnership with Canada 150? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleague, the Honourable Member for Bourassa, for that question and for the wonderful work he does to promote arts and culture in Montreal. Yes, today is a year for celebration, not only for Canada, but also it's the 375th anniversary of Montreal. And we are there for them. We support them with $18 million. So we are here to celebrate our artists and creators in Montreal who disseminate their talent across Canada and in other countries. So happy anniversary, Montreal.
Member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Natural Resources received a list of recommendations to modernize the National Energy Board. It's no surprise that those recommendations are another hit on Alberta. We know the Liberals want to phase out Alberta's oil sands. We know they want to abandon our energy sector. And that ideology was clear in these recommendations that stated Albertans cannot be trusted driving Canada's economic engine. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, will the Prime Minister ignore these recommendations? Will he finally be a champion for Canada's energy sector, or will he continue the attack on Alberta by dismantling our economy?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, we on this side of the House continue to be proud and impressed with the contribution of Alberta to the Canadian economy, and principally in the energy sector. I was very happy to be in Alberta last week, and along with the provincial government and the private sector, to announce significant investments that will lower the carbon footprint within the oil sands. We know that Alberta has been an essential driver of the Canadian economy and will continue to be.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, the latest attack in the Liberals' war against Alberta came from the Prime Minister. His panel recommended that the National Energy Board be moved from Calgary to Ottawa. This would move the NEB away from industry experts, engineers, environmental scientists, and technicians, and towards lobbyists and politicians. Does the Prime Minister really believe that career politicians in Ottawa can make better evidence-based decisions than experts who live on-site in Calgary?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the honourable member for her question and to welcome her to the House. Yes. And I know that she will do a terrific job for her constituents, as she has started to do already today. And I want to assure her that the government is well aware of the contribution of Alberta and of Calgary as the engine of growth within the energy sector. We know that this is not only a reflection on their past accomplishments, but utter confidence in what they'll do in the future, not on behalf of Alberta alone.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack HoC.
Mr. Speaker, for unemployed energy workers, Liberal talk on approving pipelines is cheap. Not a single shovel has hit the ground to get a single kilometre of new pipeline built under this government. Now the Liberal-appointed NEB board review panel wants to make it even harder to get projects built by doubling review timelines and adding new layers of red tape. Add the recommendations of the Canadian Environmental Review Panel, and it will be next to impossible to get another major project built in this country ever again. Are the Liberals making it harder to get job-creating energy projects built on purpose, or is it just a result of their gross incompetence?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the member knows very well that the regulatory environment that he recommended and we inherited did not yield any pipeline construction to Tidewater, not a single kilometre. We think that we can do better, that the regulatory system in Canada can be improved. We have asked review panels to consult with Canadians. We will now go out and talk to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And when we return some months from now, I'm confident that the regulatory system will be much better than the...
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have been doing a victory lap for months, trumpeting their pipeline approvals as though press releases issued in Ottawa will actually get projects built. But talk is cheap, and unemployed energy workers want to see shovels in the ground. For a government so intent on chasing the fantasy of social license, the Liberals have done precious little to cultivate it. The Prime Minister has gone to oil towns like Calgary and Houston to sell the merits of pipeline projects, but if he's truly committed to getting these energy projects built, will he finally have the courage to do the same in Burnaby and Vancouver?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we approved the Trans Mountain expansion because we understand that the diversification of markets for Canadian oil and gas is vital for the future of the Alberta energy economy, and I'm sure that all members on the other side of the House would agree with that. We approved the pipeline expansion, and that will create 15,000 jobs, mostly for Albertans, also for British Columbians. We believe it's part of the important strategy of creating jobs while respecting the environment at the same time.
Order. The honourable member for Banff Airdrie has been persistently heckling. I'd ask him to restrain himself. The
honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals made big promises, saying that they were going to correct the deficiencies of the temporary foreign workers program. Unfortunately, yesterday's Auditor General report points to the government's failure in the management of this program and clearly demonstrates that they allowed for poor use and abuse of the program, another broken promise. When will the government respect its promise and correct the deep and persistent problems in this temporary foreign workers program?
Mr. Speaker, this government wants to thank the Auditor General for his study. Certainly, as the member had said, both the Liberals and the NDP for the entirety of the last Parliament pushed the Conservatives to review this program 4 different occasions. I commend John McCallum for calling the Auditor General to come in and put together this study. It identifies that a botched program under the Conservatives has been provided with some recommendations. We've been moving on these recommendations and will continue to work with industry, with labour, with employers to make sure that Canadians are first on the job, last up.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
When the Prime Minister promised to fix the temporary foreign workers program, I guess that was a Liberal promise and not a real one. And what about the platform commitment to overhaul Canada's broken refugee system? Massive backlogs, unfair treatment, and lack of resources are threatening the integrity of our system. Here's my question. The promise to, quote, deliver a safe, secure, and humane refugee system, was that a real promise or just another Liberal promise?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm pleased of our government's position in welcoming those fleeing persecution. We intend to put in place a solid and fair system. We have new measures for simple cases. This will make the system more effective and make it fairer. This was put in place without compromising the integrity of the program. The Commission also put in place a program to deal with the backlog, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Our Conservative government funded a working group to establish a Canadian Autism Partnership. After 2 years of work, the Liberals rejected the request of the working group, the Self Advocates Advisory Group, and the Canadian Autism Spectrum Disorders Alliance, who proposed a modest budget of $19 million over 5 years. My question is simple, Mr. Speaker, and since it's Wednesday, I wonder if the Right Honourable Prime Minister might like to answer. Will the Liberals reverse their decision and fund the Canadian Autism Partnership?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to start by acknowledging, along with all members in this House, that autism spectrum disorder is a cause of lifelong concerns for people who are affected by it, including their families. And we are all recognizing the need to advance further opportunities for recognizing these disorders and providing treatment. That's why we have put significant resources behind research. In fact, we have funded research in the order of $40 million over the last 5 years for autism spectrum disorder. We're continuing to work on surveillance. We're continuing to work with provinces and territories to provide the resources they need.
The honourable member for Edmonton, Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, that sounds like a no to me, so I'll try this again. The Canadian Autism Partnership Working Group, along with a team of amazing self-advocates in the Canadian Autism Spectrum Disorders Alliance, worked for almost 2 years on this. They are requesting $3.8 million per year, a dime per Canadian, a dime, to fund a partnership that will meaningfully improve the lives of hundreds of thousands of Canadians. Will this Liberal government commit today to funding the Canadian Autism Partnership?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as we speak about the matter of autism spectrum disorder, I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of the member, and he is one of many stakeholders across this country who work very hard. One of the best ways that the federal government can support advancements in autism spectrum disorder is to support research, and we have done so in a significant way. We have also supported the provinces and territories who bear the responsibility for the delivery of treatment services. I am also working alongside the Minister for Sport and Persons with Disabilities. She is about to develop accessibility legislation in this House that will have a real impact on people who experience autism spectrum disorder. We will work with all partners to support these families.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Caribou.
What's that?
Mr. Speaker, today's Globe and Mail reads, "The bungled start to the missing and murdered Indigenous women's inquiry is an insult to Indigenous people." Just yesterday, the Native Women's Association of Canada gave it a failing grade, and they said that the intake process is cruel and unusual. They've gone so far as to recommend that it be boycotted until that intake process is fixed. Now, the Prime Minister has said there's no relationship more important to him. This inquiry was a cornerstone of his campaign pledge. It's Wednesday. Will he stand up and tell us what he's going to do to fix the mess?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Speaker, our government is committed to ending the ongoing national tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The terms of reference of the inquiry make clear that the families should and must be at the centre. I've read the letter from the families. They are making heartfelt suggestions and asking important questions. I am looking forward to hearing the Commission's response. I was pleased to see last evening when Warren Miller responding yesterday to say that the Commission can do better. Our government has also taken immediate action on the root causes with investments in women's shelters, housing, education, and reforms to the child welfare system.
The honourable member for Oakville.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are paying too much for prescription drugs. We have the second highest per capita spending for pharmaceuticals in the OECD. The government took quick action last year by joining the Pan-Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance to leverage better prices with the collective buying power of the provinces and territories. It's saving taxpayers $700 million per year, but it's not enough. Mr. Speaker, can the minister update the House on the steps she's taking to lower prescription drugs in Canada?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Oakville for this important question. In fact, as he knows, the Prime Minister asked me to do work to make sure that prescription medications are accessible, affordable, and appropriately prescribed. To that end, I was very pleased yesterday to announce consultation on a proposed suite of regulations for the Patented Medicines Prices Review Board. This is the most significant suite of regulatory changes for this board in more than 20 years. It will have a real impact on the cost of prescription medications in this country. All Canadians will save money. I encourage people to participate in this discussion.
Good.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, for a year now, the Prime Minister has refused to admit his responsibility in the Phoenix fiasco. He fired 250 payroll experts between February and April 2016 when Phoenix was being launched. That means that the Liberals are not only responsible for having launched the system in February 2016, but they're responsible for having reduced the number of experts, which causes delays and errors in payroll. So will they stop blaming others and assume responsibility for this? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. There's They really have no shame, Mr. Speaker. First of all, the party opposite fired 700 payroll advisors. They counted $70 million in savings for their false surplus, money that wasn't there. They left us with a system that means that we have to deploy major efforts to remedy it and produce a payroll system that works according to our expectations, and that's what we are going to do. They really have no shame. The honourable member for Sherbrooke. I quote, Mr. Speaker, I clearly hear Canadians who want to know what they put in their bodies. We're working with them. That's what the Prime Minister said when he was asked on Radio Canada what he thought of the fact that 80% of Canadians are in favour of compulsory labeling of GMOs. That's without counting the Quebec wing of the Liberal Party that made the resolution about this in 2016. Tonight we will vote on a bill about this, so we'd like to know whether the Prime Minister will act on the will of the majority of Canadians. Will he walk the talk and support my bill tonight? The Honourable Minister of Health.
I'm proud to say that Canada has one of the safest food systems in the world. The Minister of Agriculture and I work along with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to ensure that. We are a government that believes in science. If there is any need to indicate on the basis of an analysis of any particular food that there is a reason to put a label on it, we make sure that that happens. We know that GMO products are safe. They are all tested in this country, and the Minister of Agriculture and I are pleased to continue to make sure that is the case.
The honourable member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, the Rouge National Urban Park is central to my riding, and with the passage of Bill C-18 in the House of Commons, we're closer than ever to seeing it fully realized. Could the Minister of Environment and Climate Change please update the House on the steps our government is taking to complete the Rouge National Urban Park?
Honourable Minister.
That's great.
I'd like to thank the member of Scarborough Rouge Park for his tireless advocacy on behalf of Rouge National Urban Park. The Minister of Transport and I have announced a significant step towards the completion of Rouge National Urban Park with the transport of Transport Canada lands to Parks Canada. With this transfer, Parks Canada now owns and manages more than half of the lands identified for the Land Assembly as Canada's first National Urban Park nears completion. Should C-18 pass the Senate, ensuring the same protection for Rouge as there's for every other national park in Canada, I'm confident we'll be able to complete the park as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Canada. Get out to our...
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, last month employees at the Vegreville Case Processing Centre were given their options for when the Liberals close the office. The Minister and other Liberal MPs claim that the closure is to save money, but the employees in Vegreville consistently exceed departmental targets and outperform other offices. They unquestionably provide good value for taxpayers. Since it's Wednesday, will the Prime Minister ask this minister to reverse his predecessor's mistake and keep these rural jobs in Vegreville?
Parliamentary Secretary. Well, Mr. Speaker, we're very aware that the moving of Vegreville will have an impact on employees and their families. We will continue to try to minimize these repercussions. Employees can either keep their jobs in the new location 100 kilometers away. I've met with various members of the community in the region to discuss this. And, Mr. Speaker, I understand the concerns of the community, and I will continue to keep the lines of communication open and discuss this issue with them about the Vegreville Centre.
Go violence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The National Energy Board expert panel that reported this week included prominent industry people, including Brenda Kenny of the Canadian Pipeline Association, Hélène Lauzon of the Quebec Business Council. Their report is damning. This is an agency that has no credibility whatsoever, needs to be massively overhauled. Coupled with the expert panel on environmental assessment, it's clear that the bogus process upon which Kinder Morgan was subjected to a sham of a review does not have any credibility. Will the government reconsider approving a pipeline that should never have been approved?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the member knows that when we took office, there were a number of major infrastructure projects that were under review. we established a set of principles that would govern how they would be reviewed, and one of the important was that no proponent would be asked to go back to square one, which I'm sure members of the House would agree is fair. We knew and announced at the time that this would be an interim step leading to a longer-term reform of environmental assessment in Canada, a reform and a process that is now well underway.
I believe the honourable member for Victoria is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am. I'll just get this off. I'm rising on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the nomination of Madeleine Meilleur as an officer of Parliament, the Official Languages Commissioner, and in particular with respect to the motion the government has now put on notice to confirm her nomination. As a matter of law, the Official Languages Commissioner can only be appointed if two statutory requirements are satisfied. They're set out in Section 49 of the Enabling Act. The Governor and Council shall, by commission under the Great Seal, appoint a Commissioner of Official Languages for Canada after consultation with the leader of every recognized party in the Senate and House of Commons and approval of the appointment by resolution of the Senate and House of Commons. Therefore, there must be consultation with leaders of the Conservative Party and the New Democratic Party. Second, only after valid consultation has occurred, a resolution must be moved and passed in this place. Canadian courts, Mr. Speaker, have